Diddy really screwed up, and I'm not referring to his criminal trial, which has him sitting in prison right now, but it has to do with something that happened right before he got arrested. If you've seen the Netflix documentary about Diddy, Diddy The Reckoning, which 50 Cent produced, there's some footage there that had never been seen before. This is a photographer that Diddy hired to follow him around and document his life. That footage ended up going to 50 Cent.
And maybe that's what Snoop went through. I don't know. But let the people know, because it was too early back then. You know, Pac just had died.
So this one night, 50 called me up and, you know, they got him on the phone, man. He was just talking. We was talking about old time shit, you know, sit down with Black Hands, sit down with, you know, with Puff Kids, the whole Puff situation. And this documentary that he's...
When 50 Cent released his Netflix documentary Sean K, The Reckoning, many viewers believed the spotlight had finally settled on Diddy, his rise, his influence, and the consequences now catching up to him. But that focus didn't last. Almost immediately, online discussion took a sharp turn, pulling Snoop Dogg into the conversation through waves of reaction videos, clickbait headlines, and loosely linked accusations suggesting fear, silence, or secret protection, despite none of it appearing in the documentary itself. A small group of commentators began twisting remarks from Gene Deal and others, stitching together old interviews, grainy footage, secondhand accounts, and selective quotes to manufacture a narrative designed to shock rather than inform. As usual, social media amplified the noise, turning speculation into assumed fact and repetition into false credibility. Soon, viewers were questioning why Snoop hadn't spoken out, whether 50 Cent was withholding information, and if the industry was on the verge of taking down yet another icon. However, when the noise fades and verifiable facts are separated from online theatrics, a very different picture emerges. What's left isn't concrete evidence, but a familiar blend of exaggeration, recycled rumors, and the dangerous tendency to treat suspicion as proof. In this video, we'll break down where these claims truly came from, explain what Gene Deal actually said, examine what the documentary did and didn't reveal, and look at how Snoop Dogg has realistically responded, clearly separating confirmed facts, denials, and allegations that remain completely unproven as the situation around Diddy continues to develop.
Viewers started asking why Snoop wasn't responding, whether 50 Cent was holding back information, and if the industry was preparing to topple yet another legend. But once the volume is turned down and verifiable facts are separated from online theatrics, a very different reality comes into focus. What remains isn't solid evidence, but a familiar mix of exaggeration, recycled narratives, and the risky habit of treating rumor as verdict. In this video, we'll trace where these claims actually originated, clarify what Gene Deal truly said, break down what the documentary showed and didn't, and examine how Snoop Dogg has genuinely responded, drawing a clear line between what's been confirmed, what's been denied, and what remains completely unproven as the situation surrounding Diddy continues to unfold.
This audio from Suge Knight is from his podcast with Dave Mays, and he's speaking on, you know, Tupac and Snoop being cool, and how, you know, after Tupac got killed, Snoop started hanging out with Diddy. And, you know, he also speaks on how, you know, Snoop, he did the Steve Harvey show with Diddy after Tupac got killed. Check this out.
Okay. It's downloading right now.
Then you look at the scenario how everybody used Pac to make their stuff famous or make their project better. You got people who use their songs for Pac and tell them how much they love Pac, but they do songs for Puffy. You got Steve Harvey, old bit that, you know, this motherfucker telling, well, Pac, according to everybody else, he brings Snoop and Puffy on there and say, these are dudes who's running this in the East Coast, West Coast.
What's up, Snoop? Huh? Hey, whoa, wait a minute, fellas here, hold on. You know, I know all about this East Coast, West Coast rivalry thing here, but we in Chicago now. This rivalry stuff, we gotta stop it, man. We stop that, we stop a lot of this violence.
Yo, Steve, check this, man. All that East Coast, West Coast stuff is a bunch of media hype. It's been my dog from day one, you know what I'm saying? It's all good between me and him. That's my people.
Real, that's what we came in for. We came in and light it up and ride it up. We never used your hand.
Now, Pac, if you love Pac so much, how you with the motherfucker that everybody say got something to do with the first get down It happened to Pac in New York. Then the second one.
What you think about Suge comments? And I never asked you this before, but did you have an issue with Snoop hanging out with Diddy after Tupac got killed?
I always felt that was wrong. I'm gonna just keep it real. I'm talking about from that, like now, okay, you know what I mean? I'm 46, Snoop probably early 50s. If he figured out now, he might go by the opinion that, okay, Puffy had nothing to do with Pac. You know, we grown now. If he want to be his friend, no problem. But back then, that was just awkward. You know what I mean? And the reason why it was awkward to me that I never even like it because you knew how Pac felt about this individual. You know what I mean? Even if you don't agree with him, you probably could have said, you know what, I probably ain't gonna come out, publicly with this because until things clear up, so I really know I could be certain that, they didn't have nothing to do with Pac. But it's like, it was no, okay, it is what it is. So that I never really respected that back then.
So you had an issue with it. You didn't like it.
Never really liked it. It just was a strange look because you was Pac boy. You know what I mean? Puffy, it's clear they had some issues with Pac. And Pac died and all of a sudden you chilling with Puffy. Back then it just, okay, now you can say what you want. You're all grandfathers, I guess. You know what I mean? That's different now. But back then I think it was weird, it was tasteless. You know what I mean? Didn't seem like you really had that much love for Pac. You could have just, you know what I mean? Unless he pressured them or like questioned Puffy, like, yo, what's up with this? What's up with that? Then you could say, you know what I mean?
Online, Snoop Dogg's name suddenly began circulating alongside some of the most extreme allegations possible. Driven not by
Online, Snoop Dogg's name suddenly found itself pulled into some of the most extreme allegations imaginable. Not because of evidence, but because of proximity. After decades in the music industry, he had naturally crossed paths with figures like Diddy, Suge Knight, and other powerful players during hip-hop's most chaotic years, and that connection alone became enough to spark speculation. The momentum largely stemmed from comments made by Gene Deal, a former bodyguard associated with Diddy. In interviews and reaction clips, he hinted that certain people were uncomfortable because not everything had made it into the documentary's final cut. That vague implication was all rumor-driven channels needed to set off a wave of claims, including accusations that 50 Cent had deliberately withheld footage, names, or details to shield the industry as a whole. Within that climate, Snoop became an easy target, high-profile, globally known, and connected across both coasts. Old interviews were dragged back into circulation. Prison phone calls involving Suge Knight resurfaced. Unverified stories about supposed flash drives tied to Kim Porter were repeated as if they were established fact. As the noise grew louder, silence was interpreted as guilt, and visibility was twisted into implication. Yet when each accusation is examined individually, none of it points to wrongdoing by Snoop Dogg. What it ultimately shows is something far simpler. He was part of the same industry, in the same era, around many of the same people, and speculation rushed in where evidence never existed.
Backdrop of that, I went to his hotel room ready to fight. Like, bro, I'll fight everybody in that room one-on-one. Even if I lose, it doesn't matter. The Outlaws was with me. My homie Tiny, the Mexican homie, was with me. I didn't go there and say, let me get in a video with these guys. I went there knocking on their door, doom, doom, doom. Tell them dudes to come out. What's up with you? What's up with you and Pac? You got a problem with Pac? Because we could just fight like man to man, face to face, and then shake hands. That was my approach with them. But when they told me they didn't have no problem, I don't mind being with you. You know what I mean? I don't mind shaking your hand because they told me they had love for Pac. So that's different. You know what I mean? If he come out and say, well, I questioned Puffy about it. I believe that he didn't, he loved Pac. That's my opinion. I can move the way I want to move. So when people try to, I noticed somebody, I think on your page do that. Well, Napoleon was in the video with Mobb Deep. They don't know how I got in that video with Mobb Deep. You know what I mean? I pulled up on him but I'm the type of person, I never been a bully type of person. You know what I mean? If I talk to a person like a man and they tell me face to face, look, I got love for Pac, I'm comfortable to know if I can look in their eyes, if I believe what they said, I have the right to say, okay, no problem, I believe you. You know what I mean? And maybe that's what Snoop went through. I don't know. But let the people know because it was too early back then. Pac just had died. You know what I mean? Like he had the right to say, the reason why I'm rolling with Puffy, I questioned him about my homie. He gave me this answer. So then he did what he had to do. But it just, you know what I mean? I never really agree with that, to be honest. The same way I couldn't be on the stage with him. when they wanted to do that tribute, I just couldn't do it. Like, I really felt in my heart, like, man, I can't.
This is where
When association replaces evidence, the truth gets lost in noise. Suspicion takes the place of proof, and repetition begins to pass as credibility. In moments like these, the loudest voices are often the least reliable, and speculation moves faster than facts ever can. Sean K. The Reckoning was never positioned as a broad industry expose. It was never intended to be. Its mission was focused and deliberate, to trace Diddy's rise through Bad Boy Records, analyze the power he amassed, and reveal the structures that allowed his behavior to persist for years. The documentary relied on documented testimony, recognizable patterns of control and exploitation, and a framework grounded in legal reality, the same reality that ultimately led to a conviction and a 50-month prison sentence. Equally important is what the film chose not to do. It did not accuse unrelated individuals without evidence. It did not implicate Snoop Dogg in criminal activity. It did not present footage or verified material linking him to wrongdoing. The claim that 50 Cent deliberately shielded Snoop exists solely in online speculation, not in fact. Curtis Jackson has been measured and consistent, disclosing only what could be verified and legally
only what
defended.
could be substantiated, and what his legal team was prepared to defend.
Outside the evidence,
Anything beyond that lives outside the
conjecture.
documentary, outside the evidence, and firmly within speculation.
He was doing a documentary
thinking
he was going to come out triumphant.
Yeah, I didn't know that's how this started. Is he started filming himself and getting this footage because he thought he was going to beat everything. Okay,
Diddy
that makes sense. Okay,
has a relationship
with Netflix. I knew that
with
Ted Sarandis. I saw that. Yes. Okay.
And he's filming it there, but of course, when you get, obviously it wasn't a clean sweep on the prosecutor's side, but you're still going to prison.
Yeah.
He basically kind of scraps it. It's not also Netflix is saying, because they commissioned it, right? Netflix is saying, all right, cool, just turn over what you got, and what we'll do, we'll make it what it is, because we're just following reality. Diddy's like, well, hold on now. If I lost the case, I'm down to still do it with you, but I got to be able to control it. Now, Diddy was probably going to kind of shape this doc to make it look like, hey, this was malicious prosecution. They kind of went really hard at me. Mm-hmm. I'm not a perfect guy, but I am a good guy.
Yeah.
And Diddy was like, I need to be able to craft it. And Netflix was like, no, you're not. And he's like,
well, my question is, did he sign the footage over to Netflix so they own it? Mm-mm. Like, how were they able to do this without his?
No, but he didn't pay for it. So essentially, they're calling it a payment error.
Ooh.
So essentially, the deal falls apart, or he's like, yeah, we're not going to do this.
So awkward.
And the people who did the work that have all this footage, they're like, so wait, you told us to film because this is going to be on Netflix. Now you're saying Netflix doesn't exist, and we're not getting paid because Diddy was going to pay with Netflix money. And Netflix realized this, and they went to the filmers and said, hey,
If anything,
the documentary showed an unusual level of restraint in a media environment driven by outrage and shock value. It deliberately avoided naming individuals unless their involvement was backed by solid documentation or testimony capable of withstanding serious scrutiny. That's precisely why claims about secret or withheld footage fall apart when examined closely. No verified evidence has surfaced. No legal filings reference Snoop Dogg, and no investigative authority has ever labeled him a suspect or even a person of interest. That absence is significant. Equally revealing is Snoop's own reaction. Following the documentary's release, he publicly expressed support for 50 Cent, openly aligning himself with Curtis Jackson and making it clear there was no tension between them. That visible show of solidarity directly contradicts the notion that Snoop was worried about damaging revelations. Fear rarely presents itself as public support, and silence alone does not imply guilt. In this case, the facts point not to hidden truths being suppressed, but to speculation, filling the space where real evidence simply doesn't exist.
Revelations. Fear doesn't usually show up as public solidarity, and silence doesn't automatically equal guilt. In this case, the evidence points not to hidden truths being buried, but to speculation filling a vacuum where facts simply do not exist.
We're going to look at this through the prism of a modern-day rhetorical genius. A modern-day rhetorical genius. We're talking about the one, the great, the 50 Cent. All right. This guy's skill at rhetoric is absolutely next level. And this totally ties in with, how he famously is a big fan of Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Now, rhetoric with a capital R, I can just give you the definition of that. That's basically public speech, particularly public speech that is to persuade. Any persuasive public speech is rhetoric, right? Now, we kind of break that down into two subcategories of rhetoric with a lowercase r and dialectic. Rhetoric is essentially everything else, and really what moves the needle with like 97% of people and 100% of groups, okay, is in fact rhetoric with the lowercase r. So again, stuff like this, 50 Cent is an absolute master of. Basically, he dropped this doc, this 50, this Sean Puffy Combs doc, and it's just kind of set the internet on fire. It's beating out Stranger Things. Like, it's a wild ride to watch, right? And one of the things that he does is he breaks down Diddy's character on Diddy's own terms.
One of the most repeatedly recycled claims stems from statements made by Courtney Burgess, who alleges he possesses flash drives supposedly connected to Kim Porter and containing sensitive images or videos involving celebrities. However, these claims quickly raced ahead of any verified facts. Online commentators rushed to speculate, filling in gaps that were never supported by evidence, and began attaching high-profile names including Snoop Dogg, without producing a single piece of confirmation. What is consistently overlooked is the surrounding reality. Kim Porter's children have publicly denied the authenticity of any material attributed to her. Federal authorities have never verified the contents of these alleged flash drives, and no credible investigation has confirmed that they are legitimate. In any legitimate legal setting, individuals appearing in unverified material would be treated as potential victims, not automatically labeled as perpetrators. Crucially, no verified documents, court filings, or released footage have ever named Snoop Dogg. Instead, the situation followed a familiar and dangerous pattern. Speculation became rumor, rumor hardened into narrative, and repetition made it feel like fact. Possessing unverified material is not evidence of wrongdoing, and real courts require context, corroboration, and credibility standards routinely ignored in online discourse. That gap is where reputations are damaged without due process. Claims suggesting that Snoop Dogg is panicking over alleged flash drives skip every step that actually matters. There is no evidence he has been questioned, no indication he is under investigation, and as of December 2025, no legal action of any kind is connected to his name.
Shook. So allegedly, they got paid $500,000. The $500,000 was paid to the guy on the right, all the way to the right. You see the guy on the right, Corey? He's the one allegedly that got the $500,000, and that money never went to Keefe D or anybody else. The guy on the left is the one that stole the chain, the chain, which was a Death Row Records chain. That's a way of saying I got your rapper's chain, because if you were one of the guys, Death Row. So long story short, this whole thing isn't recording that he said this. So what does Diddy do? Rob, can you pull up this song? It's a song called Black Rob, featuring Mark Curry and Mario Winans. If you can just type in lyrics, okay? So he gets $1 million. Can you go to the lyrics? And Diddy's in the lyrics when he gets started. Go a little bit lower. Can you type in the word in there, Rob? Nice guy. Type Control F, nice guy. Okay, right there. Look at it's 1999. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Been nice too long. I'm just gonna start making y'all blank disappear. Man, first I'm gonna take your records off the radio. Then I'm gonna erase your social security number. Take your birth certificate out flies. I'm gonna do your whole effing family. Ain't nothing but mercy. And then, by the way, in the lyrics, he says, I'll drop $1 million on your head to erase you. Can you type in, I'll drop $1 million, just put Control F. Just go to Google and type this out. I'll drop $1 million on your head. I'll drop $1 million on your head, and just put Diddy next to it. Right there. See, it says Black Rob. What song came up?
phrase.
I'll drop $1 million on your head, erase you and your whole family, biatch.
Wow.
He's saying it in the song on what he did to get rid of Tupac.
What an idiot.
Suge Knight has repeated.
Suge Knight has long accused Snoop Dogg of betrayal, hidden guilt, and even involvement in the darker theories surrounding Tupac Shakur's death. However, these claims tend to resurface not because of new evidence, but because controversy often thrives during periods of industry scrutiny. These accusations are far from new. They've circulated for years, frequently appearing in prison interviews where shock value often outweighs credibility. Importantly, none of these claims have ever been supported by verifiable proof. Snoop Dogg has consistently dismissed them, calling them false narratives fueled by old rivalries, personal bitterness, and lingering grudges rather than fact. Despite decades of investigation and renewed attention, law enforcement inquiries into Tupac Shakur's death have never produced charges, evidence, or official findings implicating Snoop Dogg in any wrongdoing.
Being out there and allowing Misa to come out there to make money, however she was doing it, to feed her family, he vowed down that it's like, yo, I ain't never f***ing with her again, and I ain't never f***ing with him again. Puff and Suge had a conversation behind the House of Blues about was we all right, and Tupac was alive. Tupac wasn't dead. So if it was a war, Suge ain't having no conversation with Puff about we good. I know he could be doing the Hoboken hustle, trying to fool him, brother. But had he killed my man or something like that, I wouldn't have no conversation with Puff. I'd been like, yo, you know what y'all niggas done? You know what happened? And it wasn't no conversation like that, brother. It wasn't no conversation whereas that, you know, Suge made Puff feel like I'm gonna get you a payback for what happened to Jake. This was more so that Puff, for whatever reason, Suge, for whatever reason, he was mad at Puff. And Puff, for whatever reason, he was mad at Suge. It was between them two. It wasn't no whole East Coast wanted the West Coast dead, and the West Coast wanted East Coast to dead, because they still was going out, still chilling, still at places with each other. It was Bad Boy, and it was Death Row. It wasn't no East Coast and no West Coast. West Coast dudes were still coming out on the East Coast getting love. East Coast niggas were still going out on the West Coast getting love. It was Bad Boy versus Death Row. And that's what it was, bro. And it was because of the two CEOs. But Suge tried to straighten it out. I got to get at the Suge. The Death Row East Coast, the Death Row East was going to bring in Eric B. It was going to bring in Big D. And those brothers was from the East Coast. So now, they was looking for a representative to come to the meeting from Bad Boy so they could straighten out the between Pac and Big and Death Row and Bad Boy. And Puff is the one who refused. Puff is the one to refuse to send a representative or either come himself. And got mad at Zipnum because they were in the Mirage on 57th Street partying with Suge Knight. Got mad at them. And Zip hung up the phone on behind that.
So what you mean by more?
So I don't know where you get all the extras from when they had a conversation at the hospital and all that. That's absolutely not true. Say less, if you know what I mean.
But instead of just saying less, since I've been in here, Snoop and other people been having people trying to bail the guy out, Keefy D, because he talking too much. Raging them trying to do stuff for Puffy because they say he talking too much. They even had somebody talk to me and say, hey, you can help him get free. I said, look, I don't have nothing to do with none of that, and I'm not leaving prison to go to Nobody County Jail. To the point they were saying, well, you can't leave and sacrifice a little bit in the county jail to stop that black man from getting life. Hell no. I ain't wishing bad on him at all, because I don't want to see nobody go to prison. And like I told you last time, because I find out more details about certain things, I probably would go to the Vegas County Jail if me and Keefy D with Sellies. We have a good conversation after I give him, 6 upside his head, another 6 in his body, and another 2. But yeah, that's different. It didn't happen with Snoop didn't go to the hospital.
One of the most Many claim that Snoop Dogg suddenly went silent after the documentary dropped, but a closer look completely debunks that idea. He never disappeared, never shut down his platforms, and never stepped away from the public eye. In reality, he kept posting consistently, commenting on music and business, and even openly showing support for 50 Cent. The so-called silence was simply an illusion, created by selective attention that ignored anything contradicting the preferred narrative. There were no panicked reactions, no deleted accounts, no retreat from the spotlight. Instead, Snoop focused on his work and growing ventures, including Death Row Records, prioritizing productivity over pointless drama. While some people use silence as a tactic, this wasn't one of those cases. It was a conscious choice to ignore baseless rumors that didn't deserve the spotlight.
While silence can sometimes be a tactic, this situation didn't even qualify as that. It was simply a deliberate refusal to engage with rumors that lacked substance and didn't deserve amplification.
Doing my workout box. Sure, you right. History would repeat itself. Cause nigga, you wasn't the only nigga in the room, nigga. You wasn't by yourself. It was other people in the room too. I'm not gonna say no names, cause like you said, we don't talk. So why you on here talking? Let that go, man. And as far as Snoop and Corrupt writing my album, you ask them niggas that. Them niggas ain't wrote my album. Corrupt helped me with Do You See? Snoop helped me with This DJ. Other than that, everything else I wrote. So that's where you wrong at again. And as far as the tough guy, do you recall when we was at the World Club and it said Death Row and NWA? Who fired on that? Me. When you was at the Comedy Store fighting that little buff ass at the Comedy Store, who saved your motherfucking ass? Me and C-Style. So what have I done to you? For you to launch out at me? Look, don't get mad at me, man. I ain't never done nothing to you. I wasn't signed to you. So
the real distinction between Snoop Dogg and Diddy right now isn't about fame or influence, it's about evidence. Diddy's conviction came after years of investigation, sworn testimony, and legal documentation strong enough to hold up in court. Snoop Dogg, on the other hand, has only been mentioned through association and speculation. As of December 2025, federal updates are clear. There are no charges, no indictments, and no active cases against him. That difference is crucial. In an era where powerful figures are increasingly held accountable, silence from law enforcement doesn't mean protection. It means there's no proof. The industry may be under intense scrutiny, but not everyone caught in the crosshairs is guilty. Mistaking rumor for fact doesn't serve justice.
And when rumor is mistaken for reality, it doesn't advance justice. It undermines it, especially at a time when accountability truly matters most.
In a documentary, there's a couple things I'll share with you guys on what I took away from it. But Rob, maybe share the clip on how he got access to some of the footage of the documentary. Is this the one, Rob?
Yep.
Go for it.
How did you get that footage of Diddy?
I figured most journalists would not disclose their sources.
Does he know y'all have this in the doc?
I would doubt he knows.
So when this airs that'll be the first time that his legal team, Diddy, that everybody knows that this footage is now seeing the light of day.
Perhaps. Combs' team firing back in a statement to NBC News, saying the Netflix so-called documentary